Hey guys, welcome to Clockwork, Noodles for another breakdown of Spice and Wolf Remake 2024, episode 15. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope you're looking after yourselves, having a great time. This week's episode is amazing. I've got a fair few points I'd like to talk about from a historical perspective, so I get to dip and dive once again, which is always the best kind of episode when I get to share a bit of knowledge with you guys. I always feel like I'm doing something at that point. Sometimes I do worry that my reviews are just like me going, oh, this happened, and then this happened. But this time around, I've got some news to tell you, and I've got some bits and pieces that I can delve into and hopefully maybe even just show you the relevance that the story has when it comes to reflecting the modern day, or reflecting at least reality, what actually would have been the case. Lots of good things going on there. Make sure you guys are subscribed. This is going to be the last video ever recorded on this computer, because as of tomorrow I am officially going to be on the new device. I haven't actually tested my virtual tuber yet. That'll be the big telltale sign, but it is here and I've been taking most of the day to set it up very gradually. I'm not quite ready to abandon the old one just yet, but that will be pretty much gone by tomorrow. Big things going on there. So without further ado, let's just get straight to today's episode. There's a lot of bits going on. Now, the first chunk, I was wondering why Lawrence was leaving Holo all on her own, but it does seem like he has got quite the reason to do so. It wasn't until a bit later on that it clicked why he would be leaving her on her own. I initially thought, okay, it's like last time, he doesn't want to get the wrong idea. He's made her a nun, so it would be really bad if they were like walking around together. The news story is quite fascinating that she has spilled out to Amati. It makes sense that he's trying to leave her, and he's even trying to go, hey, have a bit of pocket money, go, treat yourself, go and do something cool. Here's a coin, have some fun. I feel a bit bad about leaving her on her own because we know that she doesn't want to be on her own. Holo has this, I guess, separation anxiety similar to dogs and cats can get. It does seem like she's got a bit of a fear of being on her own because I guess if you're immortal and everything dies around you, you're terrified of losing that thing. It makes me feel like she just wants to spend every moment she can with humans because their lives are so short. Lawrence is trying to investigate right at this moment in time. He wants her away because I think of what he's trying to investigate actually leans into what he's promised. Now, he's promised her she will go to Yoitsu. We are now finding out that apparently Yoitsu may not be around. It was destroyed by a bear, according to the man who was telling some tales. That is why Lawrence is trying to get some space. He's trying to go investigate it because he doesn't want to take her to Yoitsu and be, oh, it's gone. This is sad. Now Holo's really sad. And then I guess he breaks his promise. Or as well, he doesn't want to travel all that way, knowing that the village doesn't even exist, and I guess it would be heartbreaking to her. It makes sense that he's trying to separate a little bit, trying to get her to go and have some fun whilst he's doing the footwork. The Tales of the North bit interests me a lot, and going into this middle chunk really interests me. The collection of stories that were against the church or went against the church's teachings, being told by word of mouth, being written down, but also valuable, very valuable pieces of information. Often enough, when you are studying history, you do get a piece of writing, or you sometimes get a diary entry where you've got to take it with a grain of salt if somebody's writing under the duress of God may not forgive me if I write this kind of thing. There is this hidden market, this underground market for stories of the North, stories of deities. It's quite fascinating to see that the town's already starting to dress up. I also think the details of the background this week are very, very good. We got the straw animals being set up for the festival, really feeling pagan. Obviously, this is a slightly different town anyways. More people are spreading these stories a little bit, but we do have these alchemists who are being pursued and living out of sight because they are under persecution, but at the same time, they're not considered villains or criminals or anything. Back in the day, this is where I get to dip into some of my history knowledge, is alchemy itself would have been confused very easily with witchcraft because people don't understand what alchemy actually is. And alchemy basically is a scientist, somebody who's got an interest in science, discovering the world around them, the elements, but they're just not hired by official means. They're not working for a university, they're not college students, they're not rich people who have the money to go and get a degree, a scholarship in the period of time, because you would have to be from a lord. You wouldn't be a woman either. So the fact that the alchemist in the story is a woman makes even more sense because they aren't really allowed to study, or they're not allowed into the higher education at this point of time. They can't vote, but they also can't study at the same time. So it's very interesting to see that the woman who is using a man's name as well, which makes sense because we have ghostwriting going on. During the period of time, it's just quite fascinating. Women would hide under male names just to be like, oh, I'm a man, I'm writing, I am definitely reputable and people will take me seriously because I have a man's name. But a little bit later on during the time period, you'll also notice that men will adopt women's names, because if they're writing a story and they want it to sell, especially to women, or it's a cookbook, they want to appear caring, kind. I'm a woman, I have a beautiful homely touch by my book. So you can see in history, we've got evidence of both doing the same things. Very fascinating that the story is also including it. I love the background details, the bird poo all over the house as well, and the addition of the birds, just to be like, oh, there's sulfur floating around, and if it goes wrong, we know that we have to move, and there's at least that understanding. Alchemists aren't really witches. To the modern day, there is this debate, there's no scientific evidence that magic even exists, so everything you know is science. And these people are essentially scientists, but because they have this negative, they're not actually reputable, or they're not going through them getting those degrees, being seen as a scholar, they are just being written down as witches, or they're being written down as somebody who just studies magic, because there's also this paranoia that floats around medieval Europe in general. It's everywhere, it's rife, there's so many people getting paranoid. Oh, my grandma's a witch, I'm going to burn her at the stake. It happens a lot. You can look at how much hysterics there were where people think that their milk soured overnight and, oh, the witch down the road must have done it, but milk technically just sours if you leave it out anyway, because we don't really have refrigerating methods at this point of time. Lots of really fascinating stuff in this story, and I've always said it before, this story is so good at lore. The story is jam-packed with real effort to make it feel like a medieval town, and I salute the writer for going this far to actually include lots of these details, because this is correct, this is true to the period. People would be writing under different names, and of course her having all those books, she has a source of knowledge. Books are also very rare and expensive. That's why my later prediction is based upon this little bit here. When I see how many books she has, I'll explain it in a bit why I am certain about a certain thing. The fact that she is the one to tell us the tale of Holo. We know what will happen when the church gets hold of these books. They're probably going to destroy them. They're going to alter them. A lot of the pagan festivals that we once upon a time celebrated, they are now Christian traditions. Christianity came along, and Christmas was once upon a time the pagan festival. There was something else there at the time. I don't even know, because obviously I know the world after these traditions have been taken over, so I know Christmas. There's a lot of pagan festivals that Christianity came along and made Christian, because that's what they wanted to do. They saw the positives of having festivals as well, so it was very, very important to them. But this is such a fascinating episode, and I do worry that I ramble too much when it comes to the historical episodes, but it's very rare that I get to talk about this kind of stuff. Now, the story goes, which is fantastic, because we get to hear Holo's story. She travelled south. Now, she appeared one day, she was magnificent, really tall, people had to crane their necks to see her, but she ended up travelling down south, and she left Yoitsu behind. Now, we don't get the full story, because I think it's done on purpose to be blocked out, that the bear comes along and destroys Yoitsu. Maybe it's because Holo left the town alone long enough, the bear came along and took over it, or didn't like the humans or something. But we can see that Holo is technically famous, and a lot of people know the story. I think when Lawrence pays her back in kind by giving her a story, he also tells the story of Holo, but after she hit that south town, and when we had this town protected by Holo, which is quite fascinating, because again, he's trying to give her the rest of the story. She is a woman interested in knowledge, not money, so he couldn't really pay her in kind, so he's paying her back by giving her what she wants, which is knowledge in return. Knowledge actually is power at the end of the day. But of course, any of these stories get out to the church, they're going to be burnt. They're going to make a little bonfire. They're going to get their s'mores out and start roasting them over the books of the heretics. We've seen a lot of people in history burning books that they don't like. That's why I think it's also fascinating to see that these books are underground. These are the underground sources of books. Now, rumours spreading very, very quickly this week, where we've got Holo and Lawrence apparently arguing. That's why she's ditched him and she's gone out with Amati. Amati having a bit of a playboy kind of charmer persona apparently, and people start worrying when he hangs out with their wives, because apparently he's rich and he can buy people things because he deals with a lot of business. I think he likes Holo. I already got the vibe that he's got a bit of a crush on her, and now she's his feelings, and I think that's what he's aiming for, which is making it a little bit nervous, because of course Holo doesn't quite know the traditions or what's going on around her, the social cues. There we go. She has no social cues, so she started to accept all these things, but you shouldn't really do that with a guy. You gotta be very, very careful, Holo. Now, when we get the story of the fortune teller, and the reason why I feel 100% I'm correct, it's Diana, because she is the alchemist. She wants books, and books are very expensive. Now, if she's also buying all those metals from traders and doing the underground market to get her stuff, I believe that Diana is making quick business selling pyrite to get the books, basically. That's where I feel like I'm very certain that the alchemist in the story, Diana, is also our fortune teller. You can see her making a quick buck, very business minded as well. Diana's very, very smart. I think she's a woman of a lot of knowledge. Also, she reads. Most people who read books have a lot of knowledge to their disposal. I believe Diana is the fortune teller who is selling off the pyrite. The pyrite is obviously in OP's EDs. I do wonder if this is the route that Lawrence could go down, because he's starting to see a business venture with the pyrite and people buying it because they're in that festival mood, taking advantage of the mood that everybody's in. Does make me wonder if that's going to be the case. Now, Holo needs to be very careful. I think accepting gifts without actually giving anything in kind is going to be dangerous. So she's playing a bit of a dangerous game and she doesn't know what she's doing. Amati may appear like a young innocent boy, but I bet he is a lot smarter and a bit more cunning than he appears. But at the end, why is our boy Lawrence running? What has he discovered? Has he just seen the drinking bill that she has racked up? Maybe he's in debt again and he's panicking. I don't know what he's found out. It's probably going to be something in regards to the towns that he's going to. Perhaps somebody's arrived. Perhaps something's gone wrong. Going to be very fascinating to see what's going on, but I am intrigued. This week's episode has given me so much to excite about, and hopefully you guys at least find some of my interjections fascinating about the stuff that actually relates to history, stuff that I can put in, be like, oh yeah, by the way, this happened in real life too. I think that's what makes these stories very fascinating, if you can base it also on something that happens in real life, something happened in history. This is such a good show that a lot of the stuff that they are covering is stuff that is grounded in reality. A really good episode. Really can't wait to see where we're going. I hope you guys are looking after yourselves. The next video will be on a different computer entirely, and hopefully we might start seeing some plans for streaming depending how my VTube videos go. So if she looks really good and she streams quite smoothly, I will start looking into streaming. It's going to be fascinating because obviously we're also traveling to Japan quite soon. Lots and lots of change coming on the channel, but thank you so much for joining, and I hope you find some fascination in the videos that I'm doing. Look after yourselves. Have a great day. Bye bye, guys.